Turns out that MAGA sweetheart Elise Stefanik, a congresswoman, is not really a fan of Donald Trump's, something that I think most people with two brain cells can suspect. But now there is more detail about it, and here's what we know. So according to the New York Times and their report on this, even though Donald Trump has been very favorable toward her, even though they have this friendly relationship publicly, Elise Stefanik is not really a fan of Donald Trump's. In private conversations, Stefanik sometimes conceded to former colleagues and confidants that Trump was a disaster for the party, though she said she did not see an upside to publicly criticizing him because she's a coward. For all the criticism that we have toward goons like, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. I mean, I disagree with them on a whole host of issues. You have to at least give them a little bit of credit for being willing to potentially destroy their political careers in speaking out against Donald Trump and his nefarious behavior. Elise Stefanik doesn't have a spine. She is willing to endorse, support, publicly applaud someone like Donald Trump if it helps her out personally with her political career. But behind the scenes, apparently she has some pretty, harsh criticism for him. And look, she gets rewarded with Trump saying all sorts of complimentary things. Trump speaks with Stefanik multiple times a week and describes her as, quote, one of my killers, end quote, thanks to her key role as his chief defender on the House Intelligence Committee during his first impeachment trial. At a recent fundraiser in Palm Beach, Trump even floated her name as a potential presidential candidate in 2028. But behind the scenes, her comments about Trump, not so pretty. She vented to confidants that the administration made dumb decisions, true, and that left Republicans in Congress shouldering the blame. Frustrated, for example, at Trump's on-again, off-again backing of sweeping immigration legislation to grant legal status to unauthorized immigrants brought to the United States as children, often known as dreamers. So again, look, none of this should surprise you guys. We've seen it with Lindsey Graham. We've seen it with so many other politicians, Ted Cruz. Before they thought he had a chance of winning the Republican primary, they said all sorts of horrendous things about him, and they were all true. But once they realized that their own political careers were in jeopardy for speaking out against Trump, they quickly changed their tunes and couldn't kiss his ass harder.
Yeah, so Elise Stefanik is more of a stark case because she was such an establishment sweetheart. She was protege of Paul Ryan, and the establishment loved her. So she's now gone against the establishment and gone with the Trump camp, right? So they feel especially betrayed by her. So those are basically the corporate Republicans and their partners in crime, the corporate Democrats. So she was a standard run-of-the-mill, slimy corporate politician. She's now a fake populist politician, and that's a different camp. And that's part of the reason why you're seeing it in the news, because people at the New York Times, et cetera, are outraged. And it's a betrayal of the club, okay? And so they don't mind the politicians being slimy. They don't mind them lying to you 24/7 as long as it serves corporate interests. But when they do it in this populist direction, they'll get criticized. So guys, I mean, do you think she's some sort of extraordinary politician that is one of the few that is lying like this? No, none of you think that, right? It doesn't matter whether you're on the right or the left or the middle. You all know that the great majority of politicians are slimy, they're out for themselves, and they lie on a regular basis. Yet, our media never tells you that. They often tell you the opposite. Whenever I criticize politicians, the mainstream media yells at me more than anyone else does. How dare you, beloved Pelosi, and in the past, beloved McConnell, beloved Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, et cetera. Now, look, I'll say it right now. Nancy Pelosi's a liar. Hillary Clinton is a liar, obviously, right? Joe Biden, Steny Hoyer, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, John Cornyn. I can go on and on. Almost all now there's progressives that are free of corporate PAC money and are not lying. But 90% of the politicians are clearly like this. Yet this story, the New York Times is just outraged, as if she's like the lone slimy politician. No, no, no. All of the rest of them that you give such overwhelmingly positive coverage to, that you take at face value, they're just as slimy as her. They're just in a different camp. Now, one other thing that's important in this story. A person as, morally vapid as Elise Stefanik is a good bellwether for which way voters are going. So before she thought, oh, we're doing a great job of tricking Republican voters into supporting our corporate agenda 100%. I'm getting the corporate donor money, and she's going down that road at 100 miles an hour, right? And then she abruptly turns, and she spoke out against Trump in 2016, right? So she's definitely in that corporate camp. Now she sees, oh, my voters, they're way more vicious than I realized, and they're less intelligent than I realized. I can tell them anything. It doesn't matter if I switch. As long as Daddy Trump tells them that I'm a good girl now, they're gonna love me. And her calculation is correct. So Republican voters don't mind that switch at all. They rather enjoy it. That is why she has risen like a rocket in the new Trump-owned Republican Party, and she's the #3 Republican in the House, even though she's only 37 years old. So her decision to be even more morally craven and completely lie about what she actually thinks about Trump is working out for her just fine. And mainstream media attacking her isn't gonna hurt her, it's gonna help her. So that's the new Republican Party, get used to it. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.